Ah! Hey!
Hey.
What's up, guys? And welcome to another ENM Coffee Meet. Today, we have plenty of talent as always. We're joined today with Richard Caddock. Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell the people watching a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Richard Caddock. I'm a 21-year-old singer-songwriter, producer, sound engineer, whatever. I make music, have been doing since I was, well, producing-wise, probably about the last 6-7 years, but I've been playing piano and guitar since I was 5 and 7 and singing and stuff. Just kind of worked it up. That's pretty much what I do. I do lots of different genres and styles, so although at the moment I'm well known for my singing or well known for production stuff, I also do acoustic projects and band stuff as well. It's just good fun. Love making music, and that's it really.
Well, it's good to have you, man. Next up, we have Kavalier. What's up, man?
What's up, Codi? Kavalier is my alias. My name is Jake. I'm a 24-year-old music producer, songwriter. Yeah. I live in LA, and I've been, I guess, producing for like 6 years now. But pretty much everything I do and everything I touch has some sort of singer-songwriter aspect to it. I love writing some sort of any form of pop music. So Kavalier stuff is very funky, but still falls in that pop song structure. I also work on like trying to write for other artists and just developing some singer-songwriters are out here. I think the essence of all my music is the message in the song and the feeling in the music that I hope to resonate with other people. So that's Kavalier.
We also have Elias, and both you guys just dropped your Better track with us today.
We did. We're super excited. Thank you guys. We were really happy that we had the chance to re-release the song. It was something we worked on, I'd say maybe a year ago almost, quite a bit. But Kavalier and I got together and we pretty much said, hey, let's work on something, and we wrote the song, we produced it, and we released it, and we got really great feedback. So we're happy that we can re-release it again with EpicNetworkMusic.
Love the track, man. Hey, for the people watching, we're streaming this across multiple platforms, so not just Google+, but this is also going to a bunch of other platforms as well. For the people watching, tell us a little bit about yourself real quick.
Sure thing. Sure. So my name is Elias. I am a singer-songwriter and vocal composer, all that. But I've been singing pretty much my entire life. Songwriting for, I'd say, maybe the past 4 or 5 years on a more serious level. As far as genres go, I do a lot of stuff, but my core is definitely R&B, and I kind of take that and I spread it across various genres like drum and bass, pop, just general EDM, and then a wide array of other things. But definitely R&B is the core of what I do, and I try to incorporate that with a lot of different EDM styles. So yeah, and I'm working on a bunch of new stuff and everything. Excited to be releasing some more stuff really soon too.
Sweet, dude. Well, it's good to have you back on stream and stuff. And last but not least, we have a very special guest. We have members of Coyote Kisses here. How's it going, guys?
What's up?
Yo!
How you doing?
Doing well, man. All right, so for the people watching, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. We're actually both one day apart in age. That's not a joke. We're both 24 years old. Both from the same hometown in Central Florida, a place called Lakeland. We actually don't write any music ourselves. We actually found, about 10 years ago, we found this floppy disk, and every time we put it in the computer and open it up, there's a track sitting there, and for the last, 6 or so years, we've been putting these tracks online under the name Coyote Kisses, and, it's just success has come to us.
Yeah.
And
so would you say the artist is the computer? Are you guys for actually putting it on the web?
Well, we're the con artists.
Yeah.
Oh.
It is hard, but I don't know. It's been a wild ride actually, not writing any of our own music, but
So yeah, we're now in Los Angeles by way of, as we said, Central Florida. I can't stress enough that we are from Central Florida. Perhaps the only well, besides, no, there's some going on in Orlando, but our hometown, there's pretty much never any electronic music there. So we kind of had to get out because we started getting the big fish in a small pond feel because we were the only people ever to like do what we were doing where we were from because it's just a bunch of cow pastures. And so we moved out to California, and now we're very little fish in a gigantic pond.
No, why'd you move to LA when Miami's so close to you?
I like Miami. It's not, I don't know, just a personal taste thing. I love Miami. I think it's beautiful. I also wanted to leave Florida because I'd been there for so long, and I don't know, I guess it just wasn't further enough away. I'd never lived on the West Coast. I've been an East Coaster most of my life, so.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure you ask anybody, you know, LA, if you're like, oh, where do you want, you go to LA, like, Miami's fucking great, you know, but it's like, LA's where all the EDM shit's happening, you know?
Yeah, there's, that's definitely true.
Pretty much.
It was just too close to home, so.
Yeah, totally. So, before, you know, now the formal introductions are all out of the way and stuff, before we actually started the stream, you guys were talking about how, like, you know, you're in kind of limbo. All producers are kind of in limbo, in the sense that it's like you're making music for yourself.
Uh-oh.
But
there he is. Oh, he's gone.
Oh.
Now he's over here. Back over there.
Like, what do you guys do? All right, so some artists just flat out sell out. You know, because it's like they do what the people want them to do. It's kind of like you're at the will of the people that listen to your music. Or do you think that, you know, I personally feel it's good to be kind of in the middle. But what do you guys think on that subject?
It's one of the. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead.
You go.
I was just going to throw out, let's do a little case study. Let's look at someone like Zoo, who, you know, you have like Third Brain, that Jake Udell, kind of the team behind Corella. You know, that guy has been making music for years and years. And I think the question is, you know, when do you, like you guys were saying, Bryce, that you guys have been doing this for years, and you're wondering, do you reinvent yourself to cater to the public? Well, I think Zoo was someone who was like, I want to do something different, but I want to cater to current tastes, and they rebranded him and packaged him as this like deep house artist that's also singing on his own tracks, and he's exploded. So I wonder, you know, do you guys think that is a formula for success, or do you stay true always and try and just keep pushing?
I mean, I think some people are very talented, like Zoo, clearly, and they're also fortunate to come into circumstances where they have an incredible team behind them that can help them navigate the ins and outs of what's become an increasingly like impossible industry in a lot of ways. So you can't really, I mean, he kind of had that X factor in a lot of ways. I mean, you find these artists that they're just in the perfect right place at the right time, and like that's why a lot of these acts, brilliant, talented acts like Cashmere Cat and Lido and all these, they also have what's going for them is they're like, you know, their brand worked out and that it's situated exactly where it needs to be. You know, it has that allure of like coolness and exclusivity, but it also has that like very pleasant feel to it where anyone can listen to it and like it. And they're also cool, and you know what I mean? They have a cool online persona. They have like, for lack of a better word, cool is kind of hard to reach, I feel like, in terms of just looking at someone's Twitter or just listening to someone's music or looking, you know, at someone's Facebook page and just being like, you know what, this guy gets it. This guy's going places. And I think that's a very like subtle thing that doesn't come to everyone. And like some people struggle before they get there, or you get a guy like Zoo who had it planned out right from the start. You know, it all kind of, the stars aligned for him. Not to take anything away from him. I mean, he's great. But, you know, you can't account, he kind of had those intangibles that you can't really account for.
Yeah, I don't know if there would, if there's necessarily any one way, you know what I mean, to do it. Just because, I mean, the music industry is huge, obviously, you know, and there have been a lot of artists that have come out being exactly who they are, and it just worked from the jump, you know.
It worked, yeah.
Exactly, you know, and then there have been some other artists that have, you know, maybe bit the bullet and waited 5 years and really just became the new hottest thing. And then after that, they slowly started to develop really into the artist that they wanted to be, and it still worked too, you know. So I don't know if there's necessarily one way. It just depends on which way you rather go, you know. Because coming out as who you are could be either a huge hit or a huge miss, you know, and sometimes you only get one chance, you know, and you know, a lot of managers and, you know, labels and whatnot will tell you, hey, maybe you should, you know, stick with the trends. That way you can kind of get in there, people will see you, know your face, know your brand, and then as you continue to develop your fan base and, you know, develop your artistry, your fans will continue to move with you as you go from genre to genre or whatever phase.
And the tricky thing about chasing trends, as Bryce says, you know, if you're trying to jump on a bandwagon, it means you're running behind it.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah,
You can always chase trends, but I think the emphasis is on the word chase, which means you've already kind of like missed your shot.
You should really create trends, you know.
Exactly. The goal is to always create the trend.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can look at Porter Robinson as well on another end of it. When he did his first album and stuff, and he was doing some stuff with Skrillex and all that while he was getting big. There was like an interview with him one time where he was talking about how he was just trying to like his album with Unison and stuff. That was all like him trying to impress people. Like it was just kind of a game where he was just trying to do what was popular. But then as soon as he came out of nowhere with Worlds, and it was like a completely different thing, but it was something that he was very passionate about, that really worked. Like it was instantly, like it took him a lot further than his first album would have, just because he did something to get attention, but then realized that, you know, what he actually wanted to do was something else, and he set his own trend that way because he kind of reinvented himself as a name as well. And I think a lot of people now, when you think of Porter Robinson, you don't think of anything else other than Worlds right now. So I think it's probably worked out from that way as well. Things like putting a lot of effort into live performances, and he's kind of become like a more regal kind of a name. Because it's kind of like, it sounds like, you know, everybody's trying to compare something or trying to do something that sounds like Porter Robinson or something. So he's become kind of this new figure now because of that, because he kind of stepped out of the zone. And while I think like there's one side of music that does a lot of very commercial, very straightforward stuff, like we talked about before we started the stream, there is also like another kind of creative wave of people who like to make this new stuff, that like to just take a step into the water, and if enough people go, hey, that's pretty cool, everybody jumps on board with that as well. So it's weird when there's different ways of going about it, but definitely works in some ways.
I think that's smart. He did it to get noticed, and once he's noticed, he's like, bam, I have the power to do what I want now, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Get noticed, and then it's like, now you can do whatever you want, you know? Once you have the power, like you guys said, once you have the fan base, they just kind of follow you.
Exactly.
Don't forget Porter was the original young producer. Like, he was the first guy I remember who came out and everyone was like, oh shit, this kid's 17 or 18, and he released, what was it called, Say My Name.
I love that track.
2010 or something.
That track too. Oh my gosh,
He was the original guy to have, like, on his, I remember it was his MySpace I was looking at, and his description was, I'm Porter Robinson, I'm 17. Original, like,
age defines
all you need.
I wanted to say there seems to be this theme of people's musical tastes changing depending on their fame or based on the feedback of their popularity. But I mean, just speaking from personal experience, when we were producing, in our narrative is we wrote these dubstep tracks that got us pretty popular, and then we started writing different stuff. But for us, at least, it had little to do with how popular these tracks would make us or how popular they did make us, and everything else to do with we were kind of wanting just to do something else. And it wasn't very dependent on whether we were going to get more popularity or less. We just wanted to write different stuff based on our personal taste. And I'm sure that whole personal taste, you know, your whole management team and what's good strategy for your business. But I have to say, people like Porter Robinson, who just seem to be musicians, probably just got bored with that genre, because it is, I mean, especially his like electro house type stuff is kind of formulaic, and he did some really impressive things with the genre. But I feel like maybe he just kind of wanted to do something else. I don't know. I thought that was, you know, maybe food for thought.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe
tend to hop a lot, you know, like at least, you know, like amount of producers we talk to over here at ENM and stuff. It's like there's constant shifts. I was talking to one of our producers the other day, and he was like, "Oh," I was like, how's your progress on this track coming along?" And he's like, I'm changing styles," and I hear that all the time. That a producer will just totally change styles,
I'm
like
changing
randomly.
styles. Think about if you applied that to anything else than music. You would never come out and say that about your wardrobe or like.
I'm changing styles. I don't like how I look.
Imagine you're a heart surgeon telling your patient that.
I'm gonna
Never done it like this before. I want to try something new on you.
Right.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it how it's never been done. Saying that
This is a question for Coyote, but have you guys ever like just been producing your music and then totally wanted to go in an opposite direction?
Of course.
All the time. Actually, every song it just does that. I kid you not.
Yeah.
Every song starts off somewhere, and this is why it takes us so long to release something. Every single version we'll make, we'll like take out the drop and be like, no, that's too standard, or whatever the word we use, and we'll put in something else. And I kid you not, we have 12 to 60 different versions of any one song.
Yeah,
we literally have like 60.
Most people can relate to that.
Yeah.
But we have a really bad habit. We have a really bad habit of like, we'll start with a song, we change it up to the point where we've just dug ourselves down into a ditch, and now it like takes us 6 more months to like dig it back out, and then it ends up being better than it was. But it's a really not recommended process that we have.
So you guys can like release an album of the same track, produce different styles.
There's 2 or 3 songs where we have at least 5 complete versions of it. And we haven't even released 3 of them.
Our new thing too is making like purposely like children's music or just really dumb music. Like I've been remixing Jimmy Buffett this month. I'm working on my Jimmy Buffett remix album. This isn't a joke. So that's not a joke. That's not a joke. It's gonna. When it's #1 hype him, come see me.
Oh my god. What about you, Kavalier? What about you? Like, same question. Like, have you just wanted to go into a totally different direction?
Yeah, I mean, the whole Kavalier idea basically came from, like, I guess my backstory will help here a little bit. So I moved from Milwaukee to LA to go to a school called Icon Collective, and
oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Yeah, and when I moved here, I wanted to be, the typical. I want to be Calvin Harris. I want to be the deep producer, and with my background, that was like the thing that made the most sense because I didn't play piano growing up. I played a little bit of guitar. I didn't really have any singer-songwriting experience. So the DJ made the most sense. I really wanted to do music. So when I moved out here, I moved in with a guy who became the other half of Kavalier, who very versed in bands growing up. He was a really good guitarist. He's a really good bassist. And when I got to this school, I saw that everyone else was doing these EDM bangers, and I had this epiphany like, oh my god, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be another fish in this giant pond.
Yeah.
So I basically wanted to work with Sean, and Sean was basically, well, we need to come to a compromise. Where do we meet in the middle here? And our interest basically led to pop music and funk and disco, where we all shared this common interest, and we said, why don't we blend all that? Let's write songs that have pop song structure, but they're very different. I think an early influence for us was the Knox, and they still are, in the sense that they write pop music, but it's so unconventional, and it really still hits. And it's true to, they still would be called EDM. They're still DJs, but then they also have this live element that they take on the road. So I think
Sean, where are you from? Just to ask. I was just curious because I didn't catch it.
Oh, I'm Jake. I'm sorry. Sean is the other one. I'm from Milwaukee, but I live in LA.
Okay.
So that whole kind of transition happened when I moved out here and saw that there is a large volume of EDM producers. In Milwaukee, not so much. So I didn't see that.
Yeah.
But, you want to stand out. So I think the decision was pretty easy for me. But even when you write a song, you start there's something that inspires you, and at some point your perspective on that changes. And I think that's where you run into, oh shoot, should I change this? Should I make another version of this? Should I change that again? I think what the most important thing is to never suppress that feeling, because that's going to lead you towards something new. If you're constantly chasing after what's interesting you, I think you'll come up with something that's very novel instead of the first thing that inspires you. It's not always going to last, because you get really excited when you're inspired, and so you stick to that. But when you move away from it and you get old and tired of it, then that's where I think a lot of novelty comes.
I'm kind of waiting for that sound that's like, you know how there was that huge Australian movement over this past year with guys like Wave Racer and Flume, and before that it was pretty much all the UK leading all like the underground stuff, deep house, from dubstep to deep house, it pretty much all came from the UK. I'm waiting for like that very specific American movement, and you kind of, in LA especially, you kind of see glimpses of that with like Low End Theory and Mr. Carmack and like these hip hop producer stuff. But like, I'm still waiting. I'm interested to see. I feel like there's a stasis in kind of all electronic music, not just dance music, but there's, people all seem to be really wanting to gravitate towards something that, we're like waiting. We want to gravitate towards something that it doesn't exist yet. And we kind of all have like this frustration when I talk to people.
Like you're looking for kind of thing,
we all it's like we know what we're looking for, but we can't describe what it is. And you wouldn't even hear. I mean, it's one of those things that you'd have to hear it to know. But like, I'm waiting for that to happen. I'm waiting for the next movement to happen, because right now we're all.
In terms of that scene, I've seen it. I've seen a lot of it in the US in terms of like. I've not seen it like actually visually, because obviously not in the US, but I've seen it online. Like a lot of people are taking things like Flume as an example, Wave Racer is another example, because that's all part of this new kind of future-based Jersey Club vibe kind of thing.
Yeah.
Skrillex picked up Flume, and they've been. I don't even know what they're doing at the moment. They're keeping very secret and quiet. But then there's a lot of SoundCloud users, especially. A lot of people on SoundCloud currently are doing loads of like mixes, and they're doing loads of like. So they are working on it. There are people in America doing a lot of like mixing stuff together from that genre and trying to put something together in their own heads. And I think it is going to come at some point. It's going to be really, really strong, especially with the exposure that it's been getting recently. But it's just not. It's not become super like a mainstream style yet, and there's a lot of people who still don't like it at all. I've seen that quite a lot, and have been like exposed to that kind of side of it. Mm-hmm. But when there's a sweet spot here, and I think there is going to be a sweet spot made between it, because of the commercial side of it, like the exposure side of it coming from like Flume's end of it. It's a bit more like a bit more hip hoppy kind of R&B coming on the side of Flume. And then there's going to be like a crossover point where that style is going to really kind of pick up on the radio. And once it does that, it'll probably really get pushed. And
so I have a question for you. You're still in the UK, right?
Yeah.
What would you say, like, what is the cool stuff? You know what I mean? Like, what is the overall? Is it still like your disclosures, like your deep house stuff, or are people kind of done with that? I feel like because that originated there and started there, people are ready to move on almost.
People freaking love it. Like it's like this deep house kind of thing has become really popular recently.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to dig it. So like I don't know, maybe it's just caught up with me, but it obviously was not as it's become a lot more commercial now, and I think because of that it's going to die very quickly. But until recently, it was still like it wasn't radio commercial. Do you know what I mean? It was kind of everyone was still a bit more online persona. Until Disclosure, like Disclosure was probably the first kind of big thing, and then it kind of picked up a little bit from there. But after Disclosure, there wasn't a super massive hit until like recently. And there's been a couple of songs recently that have gone very popular in that style. So it's apart from that, a lot of the commercial radio rubbish still dominates a lot of the UK right now. And it's a very big mix. There's still a load of Calvin Harris's and your David Guetta's and stuff, and that load of rubbish and pop stuff. Well, not rubbish, but very same old. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love the energy. Like, that's my favorite part of it is the energy that comes from the music. But it's very hard to consider it now that I've been overexposed to it, like as anything but the same thing. Because it's the same chords, it's the same everything else. Like we said before, the 4-chord thing. That's the UK commercial radio scene right now. So from my point of view, that's kind of what's drowning us out at the moment.
So let me extend that question to all of you guys. When I say the next big thing, who comes to mind immediately? One artist, if you can.
Oh.
Don't think too hard.
I mean, for me, I think I mentioned this before we started the stream, but Lido is someone I think who, so novel. I think from a musician's point, he's incredible. He's incredibly well versed. His production is very novel. I think you'd struggle to find similarity. Well, there's similarities between his tracks, but every time he approaches a song, he approaches it very differently, and that comes through. I think for me, that you're gonna see guys like that really
take off
in the industry and take off.
Yeah. What about you? What would you say, Elias?
So a couple friends of mine, they go by the alias Vendetta. They were actually just on tour with Skrillex this past summer, this past winter. But them, honestly, to me, like, you guys should check them out when you have a chance. They're incredible. I've done some work with them. They're really good friends of mine, and they really, to me, embody what I think EDM will be in the future. You know, it's a really good mix. It's like that future-based, drum and bass type of vibe. You know, very heavily hip-hop influenced. But still has all the elements of EDM, you know, and it's something that really crosses a lot of boundaries, where if you had someone who was normally just into hip-hop or just into EDM, it crosses both of those territories, and you can really, really enjoy it and appreciate it. I mean, the effort that goes into the mix and the production is really incredible, and even the incorporation of sounds that they use is really, really dope, and it's like that heavy, like, dark, you know, R&B kind of vibe. But, I mean, the chord structures are beautiful, and they're intricate, and they're interesting, you know. It doesn't follow that same, you know, 4-chord progression. It keeps you, you know, sonically interested in it, and it's something that I really, really enjoy. And, I mean, I'm going to be doing some work with them in the future.
That's interesting.
Cool. It's a really, really cool vibe.
I don't know. Like, you have to take into consideration, like, I feel like it also depends on where you're located. Like, I feel like if we're talking about the United States here, very bassy stuff, I mean, that's, I feel like, a very core of what people enjoy over here when it regards to dance music and stuff. In the UK, it's very, you know, chill, trancey, disclosure-ish, you know. I couldn't give you a specific producer. I thought about it, but as far as, like, a style that I feel like I can see rising up, I couldn't tell you if it's going to be the best or not. It would have to be this new kind of new disco-ish, funky, Daft Punk-ish stuff. I'm starting to hear it more often on the radio and stuff. Maybe that's just because a lot of the music we deal with here at ENM is very funky and stuff, and that's where we that's mostly a majority of what we listen to now, so I have a sensitive ear to it. But I'm seeing it more and more, especially after that new Bruno Mars track comes out. I'm noticing a lot more producers starting to aim towards that style, but I couldn't tell you if it's going to be the next big thing or not. I feel like dubstep, or maybe not dubstep, but this heavy style or just dark style is going to stick around the U.S. for a while. We just might see variations of it.
I think I'm going to agree with you there, because the new disco vibe is, like, it's coming in thick and fast. I've been starting to work on a lot of stuff that's very similar to that at the moment, and I think it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be like the pop Bruno Mars style of it. I think it's going to be more a blend between the new disco, funky stuff, and mix it with styles like, you know, you got your future bass. You're going to have people crossing over styles. You're going to have, like, a hip-hop style version of it. I think it's going to become, like, a cross-brand thing. And I think it's really going to work because, you know, your new disco and your funky music, it's got elements of complextro you could do. It's got future bass in there you could do. It's got the percussion there for things like R&B and hip-hop. And if you want to speed it up a little bit, you've still got your commercial, like, dance music that you can make it into. You know, you got people like Madion doing stuff that's still complextro, but if you change the complextro electronic element and replaced it with new disco, you'd get that bam straight away. Again, producer-wise, I don't think it's going to be a case of which producer is going to be big. It's going to be a case of which producer does it right that's going to be next. You can't guess that, because it's just going to be like who makes the right moves towards that. And it's going to come down to a lot of different things. So
it's very hard to predict, you know, because like there's so many different types of music. Like, music's something that, like, even though we have genres and types of music and stuff, somebody could tomorrow, even right now as we speak, be coming up with a totally different sound that can't be categorized as anything, you know, hence why we have so many subgenres of music nowadays, you know. If it's electro-y, it's going to be EDM. If it's poppy, it's poppy and stuff, but the amount of subgenres for those types are ridiculous.
See, when I think next big thing, Bryce might agree with me, or might disagree with me a little bit, because I think he leans more towards like your Lidos or your kind of, you know, your electronic composers with strong musical backgrounds creating interesting things. But when I think next big thing, man, I just can't. The only guy who comes to my mind is somebody like Jai Paul. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him, but like this kind of underground R&B kind of sexy soul singers with interesting production. They're kind of pushing what's acceptable in terms of production. And maybe it's sexist to say this too, but my thought has always been like a dance floor full of girls dancing is a party. A dance floor full of dudes dancing means the police is probably.
No, that's accurate. That's not right.
It's like I'm finding more and more, like especially with this chill generation that's coming in, like the more chill beat kind of generation is more geared towards female-friendly listening, like listener base.
You know what? That's the best way to describe it. Is chill. Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. Is there's so many like. A lot of the vibes we're getting nowadays, even some of the new tracks like Skrillex just released, not his latest release, but he tried the chill stuff there for a while. I feel like there's a wave coming in that's going to hit soon. Chill is the best way to describe it.
Oh, I think it's already hit. I mean, I think it's as soon as Flume's album dropped, I think the tables got turned. I mean, I would argue with you that dubstep is dead and has been dead for at least 2 years now, and that's why Skrillex tried so hard. I mean, I love Skrillex. I guess everybody does, but you see a lot of these guys scrambling to kind of change up their user base. Bass Nectar just did a track with Joker to kind of legitimize himself, you know, in that way, and Skrillex doing tracks with Chance the Rapper and Flume and What So Not, and just kind of doing everything they can to kind of integrate, you know, their listener bases with, you know, this kind of new, less abrasive music that's coming out more.
Yeah, every time a big artist is a big artist for a few years, you know, you see it. Like Skrillex has been a great example to it. You know, even right at the beginning when Skrillex first did his first free EP that got released, and then he immediately changed up his game, and the sound changed to be more commercialized, and then it became something where he found his base, and then the years go by, and then as soon as that happens, you've got to adapt. And I don't think it's like. It's hard to say things like, you know, he's not really selling out because it's just like you're just trying to move along with what's going. So I think there's a lot of artists doing that as well. And I think the things like, I don't think dubstep is going to die off its commercial dubstep. Like Skrillex to me is like good commercial dubstep in the sense of he's got this vibe that anybody can love, and that's just why the word commercial springs to mind, because everybody loves it. Everybody can listen to it and go, that's nice, you know, I like that, I can hear that, and that's cool. And then, of course, you know, with the Flume stuff going on, it's just because online popularity is coming back again. Like, you had the MySpace phase, and then as soon as MySpace dropped off, all the big record labels tried to step in again, and it was like, oh, we've all got our foots in the door now, and then that was a thing for a few years. And then, you know, SoundCloud and YouTube has helped over the last year or so to push, you know, internet music onto a new platform, because for a moment I was like, damn, the MySpace phase has passed. It's going to get so saturated, there's no way anything could happen now. But then you've got, like, online record labels like ENM, like Monster Cat, like, you know, really, really hitting it hard. You've got, like, SoundCloud really pushing. You know, YouTube music has just become a thing. Twitch music has just launched. And those are really going to help the new artists online creating new styles, trying to become the next sound, really push through. And because of that, big labels and big artists are now having to notice that and take a step onto their tracks. So from my perspective, I think it's totally right, and like it's just one of those steps they have to make. I don't think there's any other solution other than people have to step on board with what's going on.
It's a good era right now for upcoming producers and just bedroom producers and stuff like that, like people that are, you know, back I don't know how far I don't want to say back in the day because it sounds like years, but it's like but it's so easy, and there's so many platforms to get discovered nowadays that it's easy to get noticed, you know. There's so many ways, like you said, you know, SoundCloud, everybody's pushing, is getting very competitive. At least from our perspective over at ENM, you know, there's so many. It's a very difficult competition and stuff, as it is with music producers. This is good for them though, because it's like there's so many platforms to get your music on and get it noticed. You know, it's very easy.
I guess let's comment. What do you guys think of the new SoundCloud? What does their fate hold for them? Have they
If they don't get their app sorted out, they're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah, why does the app suck so bad?
I don't know. Like, it's just, I just can't do anything on the app now. Like,
It doesn't work.
It's a frustration.
It's so bad. I always like my one trick. I'll be like trying to listen to it, you know, like in the gym or something, or in the car, and then it stops. You know what I mean? Like when it stops working for days, and then like maybe the next week. Yeah,
That's
for me.
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I just hate the fact that they've gotten rid of loads of really good features. Like, they used to have, like, you used to be able to go to your own profile and listen to, like, your private songs, and then they took that out.
Listen to your private tracks on the SoundCloud mobile app.
Yeah, and now you can't even read comments. You can't even read comments on tracks and stuff.
The whole thing is geared towards like users. It used to be about like if you're an artist, come use SoundCloud and get your music out there. Now it's like come sign up for SoundCloud and now you have access to all this music. It's like turning into like an
Spotify
iTunes
or something like that.
Spotify, yeah.
Spotify.
Yeah, really, I mean, as a musician, we've been with SoundCloud for a long time, not since they started, but not long after that either.
2009.
Yeah, so we've been with 2009, ever since MySpace music started, you know, going out the window. And yeah, it used to be a place for musicians, and only musicians. It used to be very exclusively for music. I mean, the only reason you would go on there is if you wanted to upload music. And I thought that was
target back then, you know.
That was a really big resource for musicians, and I guess we were also users in the way that we saw other musicians on there. But since I think they've started adding this, totally, you know, I completely understand where they're coming from. Since they added this usability for users or for the non-musicians, for listeners, I guess you should say, for listeners, it's really diluted, you know, the power I think that it's had, because now you have all this confusion as people who aren't musicians upload tracks that they like, and then you're not sure if it's by them or because they don't use conventional tagging. Like in the beginning, when we were first starting, some people who really enjoyed our music would put up our tracks on SoundCloud, and we got really confused as to whether or not they were saying they wrote this song or whether they were just really trying to support us and not understanding, and so it got really confusing, and now I think it's even more out of control with, you know, people reposting tracks all the time. You're like, oh, they put up a new track. Oh, wait, no, that's not by them. That's by someone else that they reposted. And I don't know, the social aspect of it's kind of diluting its power.
We're going back to burning CDs and handing them out like on time.
Old school.
Working the street board.
Burn CDs. You guys want to start an end SoundCloud campaign?
Jesus.
Oh, wow.
The submissions we've been receiving
I'll do
recently.
that. I'm out of this one. I like SoundCloud. Please don't delete our account, SoundCloud.
The submissions we've been receiving over here at ENM recently, like, usually it used to be all SoundCloud because it was convenient, like you said. Like, back when I first found SoundCloud, you know, their whole push was like, oh, hey, we're for the artist, this is for the artist, you know. Ever since, you know, they redid everything, like you said, it's turning into more of a Spotify kind of thing and a streaming service than an actual, like, here's where my music located. We're actually getting submissions using other services that are more like the old SoundCloud. It's just like, here's a link, there's my file, listen to it. As like, you know, people are stopped using SoundCloud and they're sending us using other services other than SoundCloud.
Like what? Like Dropbox or something?
Not Dropbox. I'd have to pull it up and stuff. But it's like services I've never heard of, but it reminds me a lot of the old SoundCloud, to where it's like I would go on the website and there would be like an upload button and then it'd stream with the wave format of the track and stuff, and you can skip and stuff, and that's it. You know, that's it. And it's like, it's very simplistic, like SoundCloud used to be, as now, you know, it reminds me a lot of Spotify. You know, it's like, come here to listen to your music instead of this is where you post your stuff and get feedback, you know?
I think a really bold move that SoundCloud could make is and I think this would really set a standard, and it would really differentiate them, is if you have someone like Snapchat who yesterday just put out that Discover. Yeah. So they're going to content creators to create stuff for them. Why doesn't SoundCloud do something like that for their biggest accounts? Why don't they start saying, hey, put your music exclusively on our site and we'll pay you for it? I mean, isn't that some way to like stand out in a way? I feel like that's also a way to get their artists back on board, because now you're striving to really be in good faith with SoundCloud, because it's turned into some sort of money-making opportunity.
I think this would be a little... Sorry, go on.
Oh, yeah, I just want to say, one of the things I loved about the SoundCloud right as it first started up, which was very unlike MySpace, that was our transition. I think for most people back in that day, that was the transition. It was from MySpace music, where you could put your music up for free and have a social element, to SoundCloud. My favorite thing was it put almost everybody's music on a level playing field. This was before before there was really the idea of doing that equation where it's like, how long has this track been up versus divided by how many plays it has, or vice versa. And you can see how popular someone is. Or now what it has is this big place for your art. No matter how big the artist was in the beginning, you put your track up, it just had the waveform, you could play the song, and it put everybody on a level playing field and made the music speak for itself, which is something I'm having such a hard time getting behind nowadays. It's like people's talent is so wrapped up in how they are perceived as talented, and very few people talk about the music as opposed to how big this person is, or how big they could be, or how successful they've been, instead of being like, this music, this is awesome for these reasons, and that's what I liked about the original SoundCloud.
I think SoundCloud kind of wants to hop on. Sorry about that. Those are my neighbors. I think they kind of want to hop on that same like social media wave, with like Facebook and YouTube and everything else, because they've proven to be so, so they've generated so much money.
All it is about the money now.
Exactly. And SoundCloud is looking at it as an opportunity to say, well, hey, we have all these really talented artists that are already using it. Let's find some way to advertise this and promote it and to make money from it and to continue, and we'll be the next Facebook, or we'll be the next YouTube or whatever.
That's exactly what happened. All of a sudden it was like, wait a minute, this used to be a place for artists, but now we have so many users that are just people.
Users,
and
exactly.
Like, the number of actual artists is so far outweighed by the number of people who just have SoundCloud accounts that, like, I can't blame them. If I was the CEO of SoundCloud, I would just go, all right, time to switch up our marketing scheme here. We're going to do things a little bit
Exactly. It makes a lot of sense from a business standpoint.
I understand why. It's just
sucks.
This is annoying, man.
I think we need to decide, okay, we're only going to have 10 bands. Now, we're going to let people vote and decide which bands those can be, but there's only going to be 10.
Yeah.
So after that voting, anyone else who isn't that, we have to stop.
You're off SoundCloud.
You're done.
Sorry.
No more SoundCloud for you.
This is why Joe is not the CEO of SoundCloud.
I think that SoundCloud would do really well.
We'll take you. Fuck the rest.
I got plenty of business.
SoundCloud would do really well just to make an app for creators. I mean, like, they've got their user app. Do it like YouTube have done. YouTube now have an app for people who watch videos and an app for people who make videos. And the one that makes videos is like a different name. You go on it, you can have access to everything in the back door of your account straight away. And SoundCloud needs to jump on board with that. And yeah, they are stepping in now to try and make a lot of money and stuff. And I think they've got future plans to do a lot more than that, like a lot more than they already are doing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that it was nicer when things were just,
I completely agree with what Jake was saying in that. Yeah, if you look at what happened with YouTube these days. Okay, say there's a YouTube channel and there's this makeup artist, right? She's just some girl, and every video that she uploads, which is just her showing you how to apply her makeup. I was reading this girl gets like 5 million hits per video, right? So some foundation company, some like feminine product company or something, like they go to her and they say, look, you give an organic commercial, just say in your video like, oh yeah, and I've been using this foundation, it's awesome, like I've totally fallen in love with that. We'll pay you $50,000. All you have to do is do that. I agree with what you were saying, Jake. It's like, why not give some incentive back to the artist to belong to SoundCloud, to like, to have their ties with them. It gives some exclusivity. That way you can be shouted out on a platform that has so much exposure all across the board.
I think that they've just done, I think they were chased. I think they had a great idea, and then they started chasing. They were kind of chasing the bandwagon, and I think once they kind of got into these very heavy, there's a lot of pressure from these record labels, basically saying, our content is being distributed very illegally on your website. They kind of succumbed to the pressure. Instead of saying, no, we're going to stand up for this idea that we believe in. This has turned into something maybe we didn't envision at first, but we're going to find a way to right this wrong. And instead they kind of fell to the pressure, and it seems like now they're kind of doing the bidding of these major record labels.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good or bad thing. We'll only see as the future unfolds. But I think there was a vision that a lot of early users saw of SoundCloud that it has kind of fell flat.
Can you just? I'm just a little confused. How do you think that they fell to the big record labels' pressure? Like, what feature did they add that made you?
I don't think necessarily the advertising, but I think that first Cascade is a pretty good example.
Okay.
His entire account is just deleted because of flagrant copyright infringement and things like that. A lot of
it's all like copyright infringement stuff, isn't it? It's all about that.
I don't think it's features of SoundCloud that I disagree with. I think it's more their actions. I think that they could have taken a stronger stance on user-generated content and things like that. I think the bigger thing to me is it just seems like they kind of succumbed to the pressure where it was this great place for musicians has now become more so just how do we make money out of this thing? How do we stay alive? How do we keep this paycheck coming in for us? It just seems like a lot of money centered.
Well, I feel like YouTube has had the same issue. It's like there's so many music channels that are uploading stuff illegally and stuff. I can't even tell you how many fucking YouTube, they're titled promotional channels, but all the content they upload is not legally theirs. It's like copyright and uploads has become such a problem nowadays that sites, not just SoundCloud, but many sites are really cracking down on that stuff. You can't upload like a DJ mix if it has a minute of somebody else's track in it, just because people are trying to keep their shit on lock and under control,
Well, it's nearly impossible. I just know when we put up content, there are hundreds and hundreds of videos with our music in it put up online within hours. But this last track, there must be at least 100. And there's no way to prevent that. Yeah, we could go through it and copyright infringe every single one of them, but perhaps there's a way. We see that as more publicity. I think that's sort of what. I think that's the whole scheme of the music industry right now. I think since Napster was released, there's been this implicit idea that music is free now, and that almost nobody is under the illusion that you have to pay for music. If you wanted to, with almost any exceptions, you go onto Google, type in the name of the track, free download, and you'll find it instantly. First hit, free download, and there's no consequences. You will get it without ever getting in trouble, and just about everybody in our generation does that. So if you just proceed with this idea that music will be pirated under, that probably antiquated term, will be copyright infringed, I think you can sort of maybe move on to a better business model, like monetizing something else. For instance, performances, or making that your goal, your business goal, making that a unique experience by instead of I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's really where kind of things have gone, especially for myself as a performer, as a songwriter, singer. It's kind of laughable when you talk about actually making money, from music nowadays, as far as like sales and when CD physical copies don't really sell at all. That's the thing of the past.
I never had that idea in my mind from day one.
Exactly, neither did I. For me, creating music, it's not really to make money from it. It's to expose other people to what I do. The money honestly does come in the touring, the promo, the T-shirts and all that stuff, the branding of it all. I think really becoming a brand and something that people want to embody. I think that's really where the money will come in later. But the music, no.
It's gotten to the point where us record labels are having to adapt to, like you said, like we dropped a free track not too long ago, to where like we had an issue with the download link. The track was already free, but I was reading the YouTube comments and there was a comment there that was just like, "Oh, the download link's broke," and then there's a reply to that saying like, "Just use a YouTube downloader and download the track." And it's like, it's getting to the point where a lot of record labels, us included, you know, we're having to adapt to the fact that, yeah, people, you know, they're supposed to, you know, support the artist, support the label, stuff like that with, you know, the purchase of the music, but people are, you know, not doing that. So I think a lot of people are leaning more towards on like merchandising and live shows and stuff to get their performance and stuff. That's why touring and stuff is so important for finances and stuff nowadays.
But that becomes a big problem. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
On a super quick side note, that's the reason why a lot of like bands and stuff do so many tours and stuff. Like I've had previous experience in like a lot of like pop punk scene stuff, like just being involved and around the people who are kind of in that kind of scene, and like a lot of people who are in those bands and stuff, they're exactly the same on that side of the music scene. It's just a case of they don't make money off the music. The only time they ever make money is when they go on tour and sell merchandise, and you can't just go on tour and make money. You have to go on tour, lose a hell of a lot of money, and try and make it back by selling merch afterwards. And if you don't, then you've lost money. Yeah. That's the end of the line. That's it.
The music industry is a gamble, and it always will be. You never, like, if you're going in like not hating on anybody, you know, but I have a couple friends of mine that are going to college for music, you know, and I'm just like, it's a gamble. You know, you can get the degree, you can study all your life. There's no way to tell. You can't say I'm gonna make it.
I have a friend who just tweeted, "Hey, I'm Johnny Knoxville, and I'm about to try and make a decent living in the music industry." That was brilliant.
That's fairly accurate.
That's very accurate.
Put it into a bit of a perspective for you. I have a music production degree, and I have a distinction in an audio diploma, and I'm still sat here in the same place with you guys, so it doesn't make a difference, you know.
See, it does. It's always a gamble, you know.
It helps. It's helped because of the amount of time I've had extra to focus on learning on creating music and stuff, but apart from that, I'm never going to show up to a gig and give them a piece of paper.
A diploma.
I have a 2-watt in music production, so can I play now? They'll go,
I'm qualified.
How are you? Yeah, I'm qualified, you know. So, but it's, you know, it's just one of those things.
Going off what you were saying, and I know we have to wrap this up, so this is kind of my last question for all of you. All of you guys who are so passionate, so artistic, you know, you guys are very creatively driven people. We've all been making music since God knows when, or even if you haven't been making it, you've been involved with it. At what point, and this has been Bryce and I's struggle, at what point did something I did because I love, like I used to just make music because I just like to make music. As soon as there became higher stakes, like, you know, as soon as we became a band with expectations and things that needed to get done, at what point does like music become a job, you know, a chore or a job? And when you reach that point, how do you proceed? You know, music, something that I love so much and that I've just grown up loving, and I got into because I just like to make music, all of a sudden became something very serious and became stressful and became, in a lot of instances, not fun. So it's like, and I'm sure we all have that struggle of like, oh God, I have to get this song done by next week, or like this deadline is done. You know, what is it still art? What is it now? Like, what are we doing? Do we still continue with this path, or does the fact that I'm having this conversation mean I'm already in the wrong field?
I mean, I think it really is more of a personal choice, you know, like it kind of depends on where you stand and, you know, in music and how you see it being a part of your life, you know, because there are a lot of people that I know that are very musically talented, you know, but they say I'm not interested in pursuing it on a business, and for that reason, because they don't want to be stressed out. For me, I mean, even on those days where I know I have to get a track done, or I know I have to write, you know, and I have, you know, so many other things to do, I never really, it's stressful, but to me it's such a great stress to have because it's something that I still love to do even if I'm crunching deadlines and whatnot, it's always been fun, you know, even on the days where, you know, if I have a show and I have, you know, 20 million other things to do that day, to me, the highlight of it is still that show. And it comes back to doing something that I wanted to do initially. And I think you have to go into it understanding that, you know, it's not always fun. You know, the truth of the matter is, you know, music is a business just like any other business. And so you have to understand that a part of it is going to be something that you love to do. But there is also
make no mistake, it's going to get shitty.
It's going to get shitty. You know, like, it's the truth of the matter. And you have to consciously, you know, ask yourself, is that something that I'm willing to deal with from jump? Because the music industry is very crazy. You know, you have those, you know, those high moments, and then you have those moments where no one knows who you are or cares who you are, you know. So you have to be really solid in that notion prior to, I think, getting into it. If it's something that you really want to do, understand that there's going to be a lot of stress, but there's also going to be a lot of fun too. So
yeah, I mean, for us, it's like, well, my eggs are in this basket now. I'm 24. This is my skill. You know,
this is what you do.
I'm either gonna succeed or I'm gonna die. So
exactly. I mean, go big or go home. You know, and I think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
go big or die.
Yeah.
Go big or die.
Yeah, I think the thing about being a musician in today's age is you have to juggle so many different jobs, all under this artist musicianship title. You know, I think the broadest one is you have to be the creator, but you also have to be the business person. And I think that's where, you know, you have this tension, you have this stress created, is because you have to act like a suit in order to do what you love a lot. And I think a lot of the reason, I know for me, I got into music and I dove straight into it because I never wanted to be that person sitting at a desk and 9 to 5 corporate culture. I never wanted to be that. I wanted to be someone that was able to make people's lives who are sitting at a desk maybe a little more enjoyable because they're listening to a piece of music maybe I created or something that I had a hand in. So I think that's balancing those two masks that you have to wear as, you know, the modern day musician is a skill in its own. And how do you do that? I don't know. I mean, personally, you know, if I'm working on a track that you have to get done at the end of the week, how do you have fun with it? You know, maybe you loop a drum loop and you just play a solo over it that you never end up using, but it gets you inspired and it gets you in a good mood to then later finish that.
That's a very good point. That's a very good point.
I think Richard, that for me, and I hope it's the same with a lot of other people, when I've sat down to record some music or produce some programming inside of the, you know, or whatever, I feel like I'm working on a very expensive hobby that I'm enjoying right now that doesn't have an outcome yet. But as soon as I leave the DAW, I'm in a different suit. Like, you know, everybody's talking about these two different personas. I think it starts when you open up your DAW and it ends when you close it. And I think it's in between that space and time. You just got to forget about the other side of it. And that's a difficult thing to do when there are deadlines involved. Sometimes, you know, there has been a couple of occasions where I've not been able to do something strictly because of the deadline or because it's a lot of stress, there's a lot of stuff going on, you just can't hit it. Or if you did hit it, it would not be worth the outcome because you'd be just throwing a mess out.
I think that's a very refreshing answer too, because at the end of the day, like, my biggest pet peeve are, I mean, it goes for anyone, but especially musicians who are so self-important. Because at the end of the day, we're making music. You know, we're not fighting wars. We're not feeding, you know, we're not brokering billion-dollar deals on Wall Street. We're just trying our best to make, you know, we're trying to touch the world in our own little way. You know, we're just writing tunes. And so it's like people who have that grasp, what you were just saying, Richard, like, it starts with your DAW and it ends there, and it's like kind of an internal thing. It's refreshing to hear that because I hear so many people give these grandiose answers like, you know, I want to change the world or I want to do this. It's like, no, we all just kind of want to express ourselves and make some people's days a little bit better because at the end of the day, it's really just music and it's a very simple thing.
Yeah,
that's great.
And I think that is very in the day that in the world we live in. You know, it was never the same because of like the only time you ever had like studio time before DAWs were like a thing properly that was accessible. You had to go into a studio. And when you walk into a studio with a band to record a song, you're not thinking about the marketing. You're thinking about let's get this guitar sounding awesome in the room. Let's mic up at the other end of the room because there's a freaking awesome reverb clap thing. Yeah. It sounds great when it reflects. Let's do that. You don't sit in there and you go, damn, you know. And after this song's done, I'm gonna have to tweet about it.
Yeah.
And, Instagram post. Instagram post is what I'm gonna do now because
I'm gonna get a stupid cat meme and put this.
yeah. So you know.
Anyway.
Well, we're gonna have to wrap up, guys. We're a little overboard, but I appreciate all you guys coming in, doing this. This is always a pleasure to get to talk to you. It's talented guys, you know. For everybody that's watching the live stream, thank you guys so much for tuning in and stuff. Be sure to check all these guys out. We'll have the links on all of our social sites and posts and stuff. And join us next Wednesday for another lineup of talented producers and stuff.
Cool. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for joining us. Everybody take care.
Yeah, cheers.
Signing off.
Later.
Take it easy. Thanks for watching.